This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 22. I'm chugging right along. I hope everybody has been doing well. I know it's been a while since y'all have heard my voice. I've been doing some different things. Man, it has been quite a 3-week period, it feels like, since the last time I was actually here, sitting in front of the booth, spitting these bars. As I always, say, I'm wishing that everybody's doing well. No, I'm not gonna do the whole if you're not doing well thing. I'm not gonna do that today. I'll resume those next week because I got a lot of stuff I want to get off my chest and bring up. So between Easter, showcase, and training, I just seemed like I couldn't find the time to get in the booth. But I'm back now, and back on schedule, as they say, with a lot of things coming. So let's get started with some of the breaking things and things on my mind. Now, it's funny because to me it seems like everyone cheers for the underdog. Everybody loves the underdog story, whether it's a movie. I think one of the most remembered sports underdog was Rudy. You got Bad News Bears. You got some other ones here and there. Everybody loves the underdog. You love to cheer for the underdog because a lot of people see themselves in that underdog. And, they want to cheer for the little guy, that nobody gave a chance to have an opportunity to win, whatever it is. Maybe it's the girl, or in sports, it's the championship. But here's what I don't understand. Everybody was cheering for the underdogs in March Madness, the early rounds. Everybody's looking for the 16s to defeat the 1s, the 15s to defeat the 2s. The lower seeds, they all want the lower seeds to beat the big, mighty blue bloods of college basketball, right? But nobody took interest in the Final Four with two underdogs. I don't get that. You wanted underdogs, but then you had two underdogs in the Final Four. I mean, really three underdogs in the Final Four. But you had two really low seeds and, a lower seed, and nobody was watching the game. I'll confess, I really didn't have any interest. Now, I don't root for the underdogs per se. I like exciting games. Now, will I tune in if a lower seed's about to beat a higher seed? Yeah, but I'm not like rooting for them. You tend to think that some teams are rooting for that underdog because if they beat that team, then it gives them a better chance of winning. But it's just so interesting how the finals, Final Four and the championship were, some of the lowest ratings of college basketball March Madness. And it speaks to the point to where, do we really want the underdogs to win? Or is it just a good story at that time? You kind of want them to win, but then you realize, like, oh, shit, we're not going to have Kansas, Kentucky, Arizona, UCLA. I'm just throwing out them names. I don't want to mess somebody's fan base. You forgot about this team. No, I just threw those names in the mind. But you don't have those teams. If you celebrate the underdogs, you need to celebrate them. Tune in. Because then what you're saying is you don't really care about the underdogs. You just don't want the big teams to win. But if the big teams lose, somebody's got to win. It's going to be a smaller team. Now, UConn ended up winning, and it goes to show that, hey, they were ready. They were ranked early, number one for a while. They hit a rough patch towards the middle to the end of the season, and then they ramped it back up. So the question is, if they would have played Kansas and some of those other teams, at the time, the number ones, the Alabamas and stuff, would they have beaten them? And, I don't see how anybody could have beat UConn the way they were playing, right? Now, having said that, it also goes into a local kid, Tristan Newton. Tristan Newton played at Burgess High School here in El Paso, Texas. He was the number 1, 2, or 3 in the nation scoring. In the nation. Couldn't get the kind of looks that you would think a kid with that pedigree would have. And, he got late signed. He went to Eastern Carolina. And he played there for, I think, 2.5, 3 years. Now, his coach gets let go, so he enters the portal. Goes to UConn. There's a UTEP connection, an El Paso connection with Kamani Jones-Young, who's one of the, I think he's the lead assistant coach at UConn. Got him over there. Poof. Tristan Newton now has a national championship ring. Funny how that path can just take you along the way. Crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that, he was at a smaller school because big schools didn't think that he could play. But here he is. He actually, I think, led our scorers in the national championship game. But it was a very integral part of what they did the whole season. How does that happen? I'll tell you how it happens. It's because there are people around that don't give kids their due. Look, sports is really simple. It's really simple. You either can or you can't. When you're on the court, either you can play or you can't play. People averaging that many points, even if it's against inferior competition, and I hate using it because I don't want El Paso to think that I think that players are inferior. But when you stack El Paso kids up against other kids in the big cities, they're not getting recruited like that. So in a sense, I could see them saying that. But even if you're averaging 30 against inferior competition per se, that just means that when you play against really good kids, you'll probably average anywhere between 12 and 20. And that's very, very good. So I just think that, the scouts are not scouting services, but some of these coaches, there's something I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about real soon with coaches, and something that I strongly disagree with, and I've told them. But hey, they're the ones who are doing the recruiting, so you don't knock them, but you point it out and let them know where you stand. But all in all, congratulations to Tristan Newton and the UConn Huskies for winning the national championship. Now let me go on over to the girls' side, because I'm gonna be honest, I was more interested in watching the girls this Final Four because I had been following the girls, more this year because the girls can play. I'm gonna hone in on the national championship game with LSU and Iowa. And Caitlin Clark for Iowa, she's that dude. Yeah, no, she's a female. I'm not going nowhere in it, but in my hood, if you can play no matter what color or what race or ethnicity, or damn, that's the same thing, ain't it? Race and ethnicity. It's weird how when you filling out forms, sometimes they ask you your race and then ethnicity. You think it's the same. Oh, let me get back on. I'm sorry about that. I've had to fill out form recently, and I was like asking those questions. But where I'm from, if you can play, it doesn't matter who you are. You're that dude. So if I say Caitlin Clark is that dude, I'm not literally saying that she's a dude. I'm saying, she can fucking ball. Right? And LSU got a bunch of girls that I consider that dude. I think it's Alexis Morris, Angel Reese, Carson was huge. Now, I want to just kind of touch on the whole thing with LSU and Iowa at the end. Anybody who's ever played competitive sports, competitive, not like some little, rinky dink stuff, but competitive sports on a high level against highly competitive people who can go. There's trash talking. There is immense trash talking. Hell, I love trash talking. I trash talk just as well as anything. Now, I'm a respectable trash talker. I'm not like some people. Some people that trash talk, they be like trying to talk about your parents and your brother or your relatives or your girlfriend or wife and stuff. Yeah, that stuff get disrespectful, and that's usually when you might start fighting or something. But trash talking is trash talking. If you trash talk someone at some point in the game or somewhere along the way, somebody's going to get the better of you and they're going to trash talk you, and you have to take it. So, what Caitlin Clark did was very acceptable with the trash talking she was doing. I didn't have no problem with it. When Angel Reese trash talked Caitlin Clark, I didn't have a problem with it. And I've known Angel Reese trash talks ever since the beginning of the year. She trash talked. When South Carolina gave it to her, she took it. Right? That's what you do. If they busting your ass, you got to take it. Now, the only thing, and this is the only thing that I felt was a little overboard with Miss Reese, was she did the John Cena, and shout out to Tony Yayo of G Unit, because that's where John Cena, the wrestler, got that hand gesture. From a song that Tony Yayo does. And I used to do that gesture because I used to make fun of how he did it. I thought it was funny, and my wife loved it. She'd always say, baby, do the Tony Yayo. So, yeah. So if you see me on the street, don't ask me to do the Tony Yayo, because I'm not. I think I only did it once when she asked me, because I was full of some orange juice. No, I don't drink. I was just dressing around. But in any case, the only little thing with Angel Reese was, she did the gesture on the free throw line. Now, some people said that she used a disparaging word towards Kaylin. But even if she did, I'm not condoning it. But like when you trash talk and you call each other bad words. But it's not really taken like you're calling somebody a bad word, right? When you're talking noise in the heat of trash talking. Now, some people look at it differently, but I don't. Okay, so that's just how you view it. It wasn't the free throw line. It was as the clock ran out after the free throw line. They're going back on defense. Clock's running out. She's contesting another person. Teams are walking over to their bench, and Angel Reese follows her over, doing this gesture, pointing at her finger, follows her over to her side, and then, woofs at her excessively some more, and then walks out. That's the only thing I thought, like, okay, Angel, like you let her know on the free throw line, go celebrate with your people. So, all right, well, if there's something about that, then, I wouldn't have done it. But here's what I have a problem with. I don't really even have a problem with Angel Reese. I don't have a problem with Caitlin Clark. The people I have a problem with was her teammates. This is your best player who's dropped 40 and who's given you the opportunity, who's put you in a position to be on a national stage. And when she's being attacked like that, y'all just kind of sit up there and let something happen like that. Like, nah, you're not gonna just keep coming at my teammate because you've won. Yeah, you got it. I applaud you. We're gonna take that. But I'm not going to take that disrespect. You get your ass on over and celebrate, or you get the fuck on over the other sideline and get the layup line, because, that's kind of how brawls can start. You know what I'm saying? One person comes and pushes, hey, get your ass on over there. And then another person pushes. Now you're not celebrating the end of the game. Everybody's upset with what happened. So, yeah, I'm all for that. I'm not saying I'm all for violence and physical fighting and punching. But one of those teammates should have went and got in Angel Reese's face and maybe pushed her aside, or got in front of her and told her a little something. You don't come after my teammate like that, right? So that's kind of how I saw that whole situation. But I tell you what, I loved it. I love not the whole, all the other stuff that went on the internet with Reese and Clark. I just love the competition. I loved it. And I'm hoping that this starts to bring more eyes on the game. I know my wife was excited, after I showed her if she saw a couple of games, and I showed her some clips of South Carolina and of LSU and of Caitlin Clark, and now she's loving women's basketball. She wasn't into it because she's never really been into basketball, but she's into basketball now because of me. She's a football Saints fan. We won't discuss them on here. All right, we're not discussing them. But all in all, congratulations to the LSU Tigers for a great game. Congratulations to Iowa for having a great season. I know there was some discord about the first lady inviting both teams, and there was an uproar about, why would you invite them? I think she was feeling a certain type of way. The fact that, it was a lot of energy and maybe she misspoke, but, yeah, it got corrected. You can't have the losing team show up, at the White House, especially with the winning team. Yeah, that creates like participation trophy. Well, you guys didn't win, but we want you to come over here too. Yeah, nah. Look, if you want them to come, you probably have them to come, next week or something, 2 weeks later, and if the team who wins, they get, catered lasagna and stuff, then the runner-up get like, fish sticks or something. I don't know. It can't be the same because you have to reward the fact that they, that the team that won. So I'm glad that they handled that, and, cooler heads have prevailed. It was a lot of emotion, a lot of trash talk. It was more trash talking after the game than I think during the game from everybody. But I think overall it's working out, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for women's basketball. Okay, now let me get into my basketball training ideology. Speaking of which, I will be having someone that's going to come on and talk at some point. If not today, I'm going to have their input because I was having a conversation with this person about social media influence on high school and travel teams. Now, what the hell does that mean? Social media influence. Does that mean, you got people who are TikTokers or people who are Instagram, this team Instagram versus team Facebook? No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the fact that more so today, teams more than ever are using social media to promote themselves. Social media has leveled the playing field to where kids don't have to necessarily wait to see if some coach is going to come and find them, if they're a really good player. You hear it all the time. Oh, well, if you're good enough, they'll find you. No, not always. You actually have to put those kids in some positions to where they can be seen. Social media is actually doing that. Now, where is this all going? Well, I'm going to speak in general. This is going to be like one of those dramatizations. The names have been, The names have been removed to protect the innocent, that kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to speak in general terms because I do know that this is something that's happening all over. How do I know that? Through talking to scouts, coaches, people who are in the know as well that are across the country. I say across the country, I don't mean like, in another state. I mean, as far as New York, as far as Florida, as far as California, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I have a little bit of a reach. I didn't realize it until you start thinking about all the things that, we've done. So here's where I'm going with it. You have teams who are, good teams that do what they're supposed to do when it comes to travel or it comes to being a good high school team. And they're not as big on social media because you might have some coaches who are more old school. Well, you have some new coaches that are a little bit more tech savvy that are new school that use social media as a means to bring brand awareness to their product. Well, what it's done by some of these, travel teams and high school teams and even city league teams, what it's done is it's had, I think, an unintended consequence where you're now having players to want to gravitate to those teams, either those high schools or those city or travel teams, because that organization has a larger social media presence. Okay. So now if you're competing, like for instance, when you had two colleges competing for the same kid, one college would turn around and say, well, they don't got this over there. You go over there, you're not going to be able to get this. We have this kind of stuff going on, whatever it was. And that could have been enough to sway that kid to go to that program. Well, now you can have travel coaches and high school coaches simply mentioning like, yo, well, I mean, you go to that school or on that team, nobody gonna know who you are because they're not on social media. We're big on it. We're big on social media. We're able to promote. Now, promote is good. Now, you also have to be able to have the cachet to be able to say that, hey, we promoted this kid in our program on this team at this place, and look, this kid got signed by that, directly related to that. That's kind of hard because it's a lot of disingenuousness out there. I'm talking like Shaq. Last night on Inside the NBA, Shaq used the term what is it? Demantalization, I think. Yeah, dismantleization is what he said. And they called him out, said, yo, that's not a word. And he was like, no, that's a word. So everybody was looking it up. And it's not a word. Some guy used it, but he just used the word, and he said even if it's not a word, he's gonna use it. So I was just saying that was funny. But in any case, you have people who are disingenuous. Okay, they're not being upfront, and they kind of blur the lines with things that they say and things that they do, and you really can't figure out if it's true or not. And that's where social media is kind of taking place. Because look, I could promote somebody on social media and simply tell that family, yo, look, you know what? I got this coach that reached out to me about that. Yeah, they want to know. Well, that family is going to be ecstatic and that player is going to be ecstatic because they figure, hey, it worked. And then I can go and use that information to recruit other kids. But the reality is that probably didn't really happen. And if I don't know if I'm not able to actually back it up with, real receipts, as they say, I'm being disingenuous. And a lot of that goes on. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that everybody out there is doing bad. I'm just saying a lot goes on there are things that you can't really find out if it really happened, because somebody can say something to say something to say something. But what I will say about this is if you're not using social media as a city team, as a travel team, as a high school team, you better start, because teams are losing players. I've seen it and I've heard of it. And, it's happening more and more. And I'm on social media. I will admit I'm bad about posting, but I'm on social media. I'm watching stuff. I can just tell you right now, if you really want to understand how social media is, if you want to get the word out to parents, you go to Facebook. If you want to get the word out to kids, you go to Instagram. If you want to get the word out to the coaches, you go to Twitter. That's kind of how it's been broken down. So if you're on those platforms and you're putting out information, people will see it. And who doesn't like to see their name or their face or their baby's face, in a shirt, talking about how their person did well? Who doesn't want to see that for their kid, especially if they're paying these prices for kids to be on these teams and stuff? You're able to promote to everybody. Now, not everybody's going to see it, but you're putting them out there. So I'm going to issue a warning to every high school coach that's listening, every city league coach that's listening, every travel team coach that's listening. If you don't have social media, you need to start. You need to make it a part of your organization. You need to put information out there. Because more so than ever now, schools are looking. Now, promoting yourself, you need to make sure you understand the rules. You can't be putting, your child up there with AK firing sounds in the background, and them talking about that they a shooter, or girls dancing and, twerking and stuff, and they have basketballs. I'm not saying parents do that. I'm being very, very, I'm overdoing it. I'm being dramatic. But I'm just saying you have to be careful with what you put out. But you need to have somebody that does it, because right now the trend is that. And those who are not trending that way are falling behind and will possibly lose kids. I could go on about situations where I've heard, not just here in the city, but in other places, where kids have switched high schools, kids have switched not so much city league teams, but travel teams, because one team offers more exposure on social media. Now, does it translate to that actually being kids who are being signed? I don't know. But that's the thinking. So I think it's good. I think it gives schools opportunities to promote their program and their kids that can play, because they're going to be under pressure. Hell, if you're talking about what you can do and what you can get when you come there, well, you better deliver. You have to deliver. You just can't talk about it and year after year nothing happens, because then it's gonna backfire on you. So I'll have a talk with area codes on Chad Growth at some point. And because we discussed this, it's crazy how we discussed this, and then like within a week, I was hearing stuff and he was hearing stuff about the same conversation that we hear. It makes you wonder if people be listening sometimes to what you say. Is your microphone on your phone so they can listen to what you're saying? But in any case, that's a discussion that we're probably going to continue with, just because I think it's necessary. What I love for every kid that's out there who's trying to be a good basketball player, to play college sports, absolutely. But that's not the way the world works. My only hope is that everybody get an opportunity to perform in front of them. Now, the game is the game and it takes care of itself. If you can't play, then it's going to be obvious. But if you at least are good enough and you get an opportunity to play against other good competition in front of college coaches or scouts, that's all that, we can look into. I mean, I have my showcase coming up in August. I'll be dedicating a whole podcast to it at some point. And that's what mine is. And it did what it was supposed to do. Put kids in front. Some colleges came. Some kids were really good to put their information out. Those kids got recruited. That's all. That's all you're supposed to do when you're doing these things, is to put them in a position where they can play and let people who can make those decisions make them. So we'll continue with that. Now, I do want to get on my other side of training ideology. This is something that we don't do. So if you are there listening and you are considering bringing your child to us to train, one thing we don't teach is effort. I'm not going to devise a drill on effort. If your child doesn't have effort, your child is not going to last with us. There might be somebody else who wants to continue taking their money knowing that this kid is not giving effort because they're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's not what we're doing. I've sent kids home. I've sent kids home recently. If you come in to train with me and within that first 5 to 10 minutes, you kind of not going, you going half-ass speed. You just kind of moving like you don't really care, like you're there, like you want to be there. I'll stop it. I've stopped workouts full going on in the first 10 to 20 minutes and told the parents, no, I'm not going to even charge you for this because, it's not you, it's them. You got to have effort. Now, obviously, you got to have effort when you play, of course. But that effort is going to start if you're training with us, you're going to give us effort or you're not going to be there. Effort is something that you can't really teach, really. It's just something that you have. You know you're supposed to go fast when the drill calls for you to go fast. You know what a sprint is versus a jog. You know how hard you're supposed to come out if you're going to come over a curl or flare out. You know how many dribbles it's supposed to take you to get from the 3-point line to the basket if you're doing the layup. It does not take 7 dribbles from the 3-point line to do a layup. In high competition, it takes 1. I'll be okay with 2. Anything more than 2 is usually just that you're just slow-assing. And that's not something that we encourage, and that's not something I'm going to put up with. Now, I don't yell at the kids. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to yell, you got to give effort and start throwing stuff around and, doing, nah, I'm not going to do that. It's just going to be just as cool, as calm as everything and just say stop. Okay, go ahead and have a seat, and I give the, it's no more signal that, no, we're not going to continue this. And look, I do have times when kids will come in and I can tell they've had a long day, a long week. If you have a kid who's been coming, we have kids that have been coming for a while, they're bound to be tired. I get that. And I tell them sometimes, look, this was an off day for you. I can tell. I can tell you this. The first week of school, when school starts, the first week of school, that's usually our worst week when kids come in, their effort level. And I understand that because I've been doing this for so long. I understand that those kids are going to be more tired because they're getting into the routine of getting up. First week of school, it's a lot going on. I understand that. But if you're coming to me in the summer where you don't have to get up and it's 2:00 and that's your workout and you coming in at 2:01 and you looking like you just woke up and your response is, oh, I was playing Fortnite till 5 a.m. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. You can't be disciplined enough to get yourself to do the things we need to do. So I'm not going to keep carrying on, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that I'm not about just taking people's money and telling them they're good when they're not. I'm always honest. If they're not working, I'm going to get on them about it. Or I'm going to tell them they can't train with us. But I tell you what I will take. I'll take a kid who wants to get better, who has the effort to go hard more than any talented kid out there. Because if I can get that kid to be, he might not be as talented as that other kid, but I can get that kid close. I can get him right based on that kid's skill set. And when they play, that kid's going to kill him because that kid is going to go harder and he's going to work him. So, effort. I always give effort in anything you're doing. If you don't want to give effort, don't do it. Because you never know when somewhere down the future your paths could cross again, and that person be like, man, I remember you back when you was training. You didn't even want to try to go hard. Why should I look at investing money in your company or whatever? I don't know. But needless to say, that's kind of, the topic. And I want to make sure everybody understands that. Okay, so that's going to be all for today. Let me get you in the bonus content. For our Patreon version, we're going to talk about when your parents don't believe in the process. And then we're going to also talk about turnovers, the difference between live and dead turnovers. I'm not talking about zombies. Okay, I'm talking about turnovers, live and dead. I'll explain that. So I'm going to end this with how I always do, and I'll say it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.